Recording in progress.
Welcome back to my channel. In terms of finding a name for this broadcast, I was thinking. First, I thought Tale of Two Cities, but that's been done. Then I was thinking Two Towers, been done. So I came up with the concept of the Tale of Two Tragedies. We're going to look at two rebellions against God in Parshas Noach and see the differences and how the outcomes, the consequences were totally different. It makes no sense unless you look a little deeper and see what really went on. So let's first give the narrative, and then we'll go into the deep dive and how that can actually help us in our own lives. The first one, Noah. We all know the story of Noah and the ark, or we should. God tells Noah, build an ark, build it this size by this size by this size. Comedians have done shtick about it. I remember my childhood, although normally it's not proper to mention his name, Bill Cosby, based on the issues that he had in his own personal life and the actions that he has been uh, had to address. But he had a whole shtick on Noah and the Ark. And what happened? He was told, build an ark. Why? Because the people had gone into complete uh, disarray. Civilization has fallen apart, revolt, complete rebellion against God. So what does he do? Build the ark, and then he has to start all over after the flood with Noah and his family. Let's compare that later on, where you go a number of generations later, you have Nimrod, who ends up leading everybody to say, hey, let's build a tower to go up against God. We're going to rebel. We're going to fight. If you want to know the specifics on how that played out in terms of for the breaking up of by thirds and their motivation, you can look in the Sanhedrin, Daf Kuf Yod Ches, Kuf Yod Tes in that area in order to go through Migdal Bavel, the Tower of Babel, and see how that played out for consequences in more detail. But needless to say, what is the basics that we see in the Torah and the Bible? That he split up all the people into different languages, and they stopped building the tower. He didn't destroy the world. So what gives? Why destroy the world in this case with Noah that he had to start over and not destroy the world again? Was it because of the promise of the rainbow? Not really. If we look and do a deep dive into what was the motivation and the threat for each kind, we'll see why that is and how that actually applies to our own lives today. So, if we look at the story of Noah and the Ark in deeper level, what happened? Man wasn't fighting against man. Not only were they doing horrific acts of immorality and with animals as well, and animals had gone completely nuts as a result of that because it permeated the land. But also, you had the aspect that man was stealing from man. There was no respect for each other. So I remember hearing a story years ago of a teacher who had taught in a very redneck. I apologize for those who might take offense to that. A redneck kind of an area, in which case someone would go and break into their home, steal something of theirs. 2 days later, they'd go down the street and break into the home of the person who actually stole it from them and steal it back. There was no respect of each other's property. It's a matter of like, I want it, I take it. Much like how a 2-year-old thinks. What's yours is mine, what's mine is mine. If I see it, it's mine. If I like it, it's mine. If it's broken, it's yours until it's fixed, and then it's mine again. That was the mindset. And if that's the mindset, you don't have society. You have nothing to build on because there is no idea of a concept of community. You can't have community when every person is out for themselves and willing to destroy everyone else in the process. Let's compare that now with the Tower of Babel, Migdal Bavel. If we look into this, they were all unified. Yes, they had different motivations. Some wanted to actually rise up and revolt against God. Some were just thinking of it as a fortification against some potential threat. But regardless of motivation, The concept was very clear. They were all working together. And God, in his infinite wisdom, decided they're working together. There's harmony, there's unity, there's achdus. And because of that, I'm not going to destroy them. But if this unity is bringing them to revolt against me, then I'm going to create a bit of disunity in order to separate them. Not complete disunity, not like what we had in the times leading up to Noah and the ark, but a sense of disunity in terms of separating people into different groups. And they can have unity within their own groups, but not a global unity because that has been set up to rebel against God. So if we end up looking at the outcomes, both were against God. One was even directly. The Tower of Babel was directly an affront to God and an attempt to, if there was a possibility in a way in their mind, to overthrow God, if you will. And yet, what was God's response? He just separated them into different groups. That was the consequence for a large part of that uh, set of people at that point. So if that's the case, we have to look in terms of what does God find as a greater challenge? Is it a lack of unity or an affront against Hashem, an affront against God? If we look at a parent, what gives a parent most joy when he or she sees their kids are happy, working together, playing together, enjoying time together? God, being the ultimate parent, definitely shares that in that view. And so when people are working together, though it might be for a poor choice, it might be for a terrible cause, the concept that they're working together did not go unnoticed. And it's because of this concept of unity, working together as a team, a cohesion of people together, that was where we limited the negative consequences. We were limited by the negative consequence of that, and did not have the world completely destroyed again, but only to be divided into separate groups so we cannot rise up to challenge God in the same way as we had just attempted. So, what does that mean for me and you in our own lives? Well, it means that sometimes we're going to disagree with people. That's the nature of things. There's the old Jewish saying, two Jews, three opinions, or if you have three Jews, 10 opinions. It just goes exponentially larger. We're going to disagree. And that makes perfect sense. We're different people. We have different upbringings, different life experiences, different perspectives based on numerous factors. But the question then is, does that mean I should hate a person for disagreeing with me? No. You can think of a person as completely disgusting in their behavior, in their mind, but that doesn't mean they're any less human. That doesn't mean they're not, as we say in Hebrew, Tselem Elohim, created in God's image. And if that's the case, then we have a big responsibility to make sure we show proper respect to other people. Now, you might say, this person is disgusting. How can I show the person respect? Well, if you want someone to reciprocate who finds you disgusting, which I'm sure if you go throughout the world, you will find at least some people who find your thoughts and behaviors disgusting, for right or for wrong, on a relative scale, they will see what your behavior is disgusting. And if that's the case, you will be thought of as disgusting. So unless somebody is actually inciting violence towards someone else, and you need to step in to stop violence. There are people that make poor decisions, sometimes uninformed, but that doesn't make them less human. And it's an important takeaway from this Parsha that we should recognize that we're all human and we all should merit a certain level of respect, unless their own actions, which you see personally, their actions, not their thoughts, not what they say, because lots of people say lots of things, sometimes in the heat of passion, sometimes to show off. But what they say is a lot of times a facade, but through actions. And if you look at what a person's actions are, then you'll know what their true heart is telling you. And if that's the case, you can judge by one's actions. But in the meantime, everyone, until you see that what their true heart is definitely meriting of respect. Wishing you all a good Shabbos and a great week.